Welcome to Focus on Djibouti Forum here in the coastal city of Djibouti. We're joined by two people, Jean-Andre Gbarssin, the Chief Investment Officer of Djibouti Sovereign Fund, and Wouter van Hulten, the CEO of Paix, to talk about a remarkable deal they have just signed an hour ago, a $50 million deal for building data centers in this beautiful coastal city. Thank you for joining us, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start with, one by one, a comment from each of you about what this entails. What is this $50 million for?
Well, Paix data center investment in Djibouti puts us at the crossroad of connectivity between Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. And that, of course, it creates a natural networking hub, and that's an interesting aggregation of multiple subsea landing points and terrestrial cables in Djibouti. That makes it a very interesting gateway. So we've received strong interest from our customers. We work with cloud providers, internet service providers, content networks, and they seek to access the emerging markets on the African continent. And what we're developing here is a cloud and hubs in Djibouti.
Right. Now, I understand why that would be an attractive opportunity for you. And I also see that this has been long coming. Djibouti has been interested in building sea cables and that being a part of its economy and a generator for its economy. But tell us a little bit about this deal. Where did it come from?
So thanks a lot for the question. I think that we need to remind our audience that Djibouti has been in that journey for a long time. The journey of turning Djibouti into the digital hub. It started by a lot of investment in subsea cable. Djibouti is one of the most connected country in Africa, but that was the first sort of like step toward that direction. Now we are building the second layer, which is data center, fiber, and all this. And really by striking this deal, we are really laying down the foundation for that second phase of digital transformation of Djibouti.
What is the time frame for building this data center? When does it go operational? Who benefits? How does Djibouti benefit? And what about neighboring nations?
So first of all, that's who benefits. So Djibouti benefits, of course, and we're building the digital infrastructure of this country, and that benefits, of course, the economy. It creates employment, and it creates a whole new industry around the digital economy.
Sure.
And who do we bring here is, of course, our international customers, and we serve our local customers, and that could be telecom providers, cloud providers, financial institutions. They all need this infrastructure that's reliable, powered, always on, 24/7, and ensures that their business is running.
Right. And how do you ensure that, just recently, Sunday, just yesterday, there was a little issue with sea cables being basically disturbed by natural disaster, a natural activity. Now, when things like that happen, a question is for both of you. How do you ensure that customers remain protected? And how do you ensure that your investors' interests remain protected when coming with such large sums and setting up this infrastructure?
So I think it's an excellent question, and I think the answer in one word is diversification. The beauty about Djibouti is that we have 10 subsea cables, and usually maybe one or two will be affected, but you will have remaining a sizable amount of cable up and running, which really guarantees a certain level of service to our clients. So I think we are very confident in continuing on the track record that we've built over the years to protect the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure that we've built, and going forward, this will still remain the focus to ensure that our investment is protected, but also the service to our clients is protected.
And what about you? How do you ensure that?
Well, you can think about our data centers as interconnection hubs. So these are the places where networks connect to each other. The networks connect with the content. Should one of the networks fail, which happens from time to time, as we've seen in the past few weeks and few months, several submarine cables have failed around the African continent. When that happens, it's important that our customers are able to reroute their traffic through these interconnection hubs. And so they provide locations where you can pick who you connect with. And that's both with connectivity providers, but it's also with content providers.
So essentially what you're saying is that these backups need to be in place, but backup also means more expenditure on this infrastructure. What I want to understand is, what is the rate of return?
We are impact driven, but also return focused.
Yeah.
We are a commercial investor. So when we embark on a project like this, and that's why it took a long time for us to get to the stage today where we sign an agreement, we do a lot of analysis to make sure that our money is protected and that the capital is allocated where it should be allocated and where it will return the best return on investments. And to do this, you need to take into account all the risk. And the risk that you mentioned has been taken into account. And when we adjust the return for all those risks, we are still very satisfied and very confident that we will generate the kind of return that we need as a sovereign fund to build intergenerational wealth for the Djiboutian citizen. And for the future of Djibouti.
The way we look at our investments here is, of course, we work closely with our customers.
Yes.
And our customers are all about improving the digital infrastructure on the African continent and delivering content and cloud solutions on the continent. So with their input, of course, we realize, well, where do we need to make investments? And it's clear that Djibouti is a key gateway to the Horn of Africa, and that's where several hundred million people need to be served with content and information and online services.
Yes.
And so with the help of our customers, we realize that this is an opportunity where we need to start investing. So generally, we make sure that we have interest from our customers before we make these projects happen.
That is very important, because isn't there a need to understand the appetite to also make it cost effective? That is my next question. How do you ensure that the African population can genuinely afford the services you're offering?
Well, it's a sort of like a chicken and egg problem, right? That's when an investment becomes an art. But how do we make it a science? Is by looking at the track record and the precedents. And when you look at other places in Africa, we saw the demand. We saw the business case already playing out. And there's no reasons that it will not play out in Djibouti, because we do have the ingredients. Right. We have the data that is already landing in Djibouti. We have access through Djibouti to about 400 million people, the COMESA market. The growth of data that is generated by the region is forecasted to grow at a very aggressive rate. So when you put all of this together, and the fact that Djibouti is a very stable economy with a very stable currency, I think that we have everything in place to convince us first, and then international partners to come in and build this infrastructure.
Yeah, nobody can debate, especially today, even political stability, security, and including currency keeping up, among the top in Africa, certainly.
That's right.
Looking at competition, Wouter, how do you navigate that? Some would say having more competition stimulates the industry, there's more innovation, more creativity. But in these nascent stages, how does that impact prices when there is too much competition, or also investment? And I would like you to answer this first, and then I'd come to you.
So competition is an extremely important element in our industry, and of course, a competition on the fiber and the telecommunications networks. That's where it starts, because there's a requirement to have multiple fiber providers in a market, which bring prices down, which provide more options to connect for businesses to connect to a data center, and then of course, and once the data center industry gets going, it starts generating more interest, and more people will enter the market and deliver that type of services. I'm also on the board of the Africa Data Centers Association. Yeah. So it's a group of data center operators that are building out this infrastructure across the African continent. There's a lot of competition, and that's only a good thing, because not one company has all the answers for everyone.
Sure, I would like to twist this exact question that I posed to him slightly, and that is, when there's more competition brewing, you have more options, and don't you think governments have more options and more space to negotiate? Where do you stand on that?
Negotiate
terms that we're not disclosing.
Negotiation is a good thing, and options is a good thing. It makes enterprises more efficient, and it reduces the cost to customers, which leaves them with more disposable income. I think when we look at Djibouti and our plan to grow it as a digital economy, we inspire ourselves from example like Marseille in France, for example, where it's not so much larger than Djibouti. It's quite actually small. It's a small part of France. Yet it's one of the most connected place in the world, with thousands of data centers and many incumbents running data centers. And yet it has made enough activities to make all of the actors profitable and getting their return on investments. So when it comes to Djibouti, we are very confident that as the competition grows, our business will grow also, and our return on investment will stay intact or even improve.
Now when I look at the ambition that you're talking about, for data centers, I presume to match that kind of ambition, or even what you're doing now, you require a lot of energy to run these systems, isn't it? And I suppose, where is that going to come from, or is it already at capacity?
So as an industry, we have an ambition to be fully renewable because it is consuming energy, and we want to have the lowest carbon footprint that we can. So we are working on it. Some of my colleagues in the industry are working on it. And of course, we're very interested by Djibouti because of the developments in renewable energy that are taking place here too.
I would be too, very keen to follow up on that. What kind of projects do you think would be supporting incredible projects like these? Would it be wind? Would it be solar? Looking at all the sun here, it's quite bright.
You're right. Djibouti has been blessed with the kind of weather you want to develop renewable energy throughout the year. And I think that's where you see a crossroad between the plan to become a digital economy with the plan to become a fully green economy coming together. And you were asking about the project, so it happens that the sovereign fund is also a shareholder in those renewable projects. To cite a few, you have the wind project, the wind farm in Goubai, 60 megawatts, that came on production recently. And in the pipeline, you also have a 25 megawatts first phase in Gbarssin, which should turn into a second phase soon after. And so all of this is building the capacity, the renewable energy capacity that will be necessary to fuel in a green way the data center that we're building.
And just a last comment on that, because I'm curious. All that energy, I don't think your 1 million households are going to be needing that. Is it entirely for industrial complexes or economic zones, something like that?
The consumption mix is always evolving. It's dynamic. But as you alluded in your previous question, data center, digital infrastructure, they're very energy intensive. And so we expect that a lot of the capacity that will come online in terms of renewable energy will be absorbed by the digital infrastructure and other infrastructure, because as you may know, we also are developing large free zones in Djibouti, one of the largest in Africa. And when all of those free zones will fill up with industrial companies, that also will demand renewable energy. So clearly the consumption mix over the next 5 to 10 years will come a lot from, rely a lot on the industrial component of the economy.
That is excellent, and the need of the hour. And last point from you, Wouter. Would you be looking into independent, as an off-grid solar, or I don't know, some sort of renewable project on your site of data centers? And to that, do you expect being incentivized for using green energy for your data centers?
So we will buy green energy, and we will purchase green energy where we can. It's not necessarily our specialty to develop the solar power installations.
These are ambitious projects and completely the need of the hour, whether it is renewable energy or connecting Africa. So many still remaining, about 600 million I hear. Just now a conversation about the $50 million data center project coming up in Djibouti in collaboration with the Djibouti Sovereign Fund and Paix. The CEO Wouter van Hulten joined us, as well as Jean-André Gbarssin, the Chief Investment Officer of Djibouti Sovereign Fund, for this Focus On episode of Djibouti Forum. Thank you.